Good afternoon, Sir Dalma. Now we're going to report about crustacean, mollusks, and other invertebrates. I am Hannah Shea Gail Arsol, and my other member are Jonah May Dorandes, Casey Garvin, Junver Lumukso, Miranda Andrea, and A. Jason Karandang. Now, we're going to tackle about mud crab. Common name, alimango. Scientific name, Scylla serrata. Size, can grow up to be 24 centimeters wide and weight up to 3.5 kilograms. And the habitat of mud crab is muddy, mangrove-lined estuaries, or tinatawag din natin siyang brackish water. And yung feeding niya siya ay omnivores, ibig sabihin nakain siya ng plants and meats. And yung lifespan ng mud crab is 3 to 4 years. Next slide. And now, we're going to mud crab basic info. And this is the mud crabs, as you can see. And the basic info is, mud crab have 2 pairs of antenna between the eyes. Yung antenna nila is ginagamit nila para pan-detect ng water currents and chemistry. And yung mouth is covered by 6 layers of paired appendages, or yung mouth nila pag kumakain sila, meron silang 6 layer kung saan nila nadadigest yung foods. And yung claw nila, which is chellae or have different function. Yung left nila is pang-cutter or pang-cut ng mga kinakain nila. Yung right naman ay yung nagdudurog or nagka-crush para makain nila. Yung male crusher ay mas bigger sa female crusher or yung claw nila. Tapos, food location is by contact of chemoreption, or yung chemoreption is yung detecting ng chemical cues in water, enabling to find food and also para ma-avoid nila yung mga predator. And yung the 5th pair of walking legs are flattened into paddle-like structure. Paddle-like structure, or yung ginagamit nila pang langoy, yung parang flat na pabilog sa pinakang huli nung paanong mud crab. And also, they have ability to release legs or claw if handled roughly. Nakakapag-release sila nung claw kapag halimbawa hinawakan sila ng mahigpit or parang nakakasense sila ng predator or yung paghawak nating mga tao. Next slide. And yung taxonomy naman ng mud crab is Kingdom Animalia, Phylum Arthropoda, Class Crustacea, Order Decapoda, Family Portunidae, genus Cyca. And yung mga species and variants naman ng mud crab is S. serrata, o yung mga giant or king, yung mga malalaki. Yung S. Tranquebarica, or yung mga purple na mud crab or lawindon kung yung iba. Yung S. Paramomasain, or yung mga kulay orange. Yung S. olivacea, green, native, or yung pulahan or kulay pula. S. serrata prefers. Next slide. And yung life history naman ng mud crab is yung adult courtship and mating in brackish water. Ibig sabihin, yung mga mud crab is nagko-courtship sila, tapos nagme-mate sila sa brackish water or yung pinaghalong seawater and yung fresh water. After nung mating nila, yung mature female, nagmamigrate siya sa open ocean where they spawn. And also, yung spawn egg are attached to the pelopod of the abdomen of or tail flap of the female. As you can see, yung parang pinakambaba nung female, yung abdomen nila, nandun yung mga eggs na naka-attach sa kanila. And the life history also of eggs and embryo. Eggs incubate is 7 to 14 days, or yung pag-incubate sa mga eggs ay tumatagal ng 7 to 14 days. Egg hatch into zoea and go through 5 molts. Yung egg, pag nahatch siya is zoea. Ang zoea ay larval form or swimming larvae or we call it zooplankton. Also, yung 5 molts ay yung mga nagmo-molts yon. After which they become free swimming megalopa, or yung megalopa ay yung kasunod naman nung zoea, yung post-larvae stage. And yung first 3 zoelar stage ay zooplankton. Zoea 3 to megalopoda stage is magiging artemia na siya. Next slide. Life history. Yung crablet naman tayo. So, ikatlo na tayo after the adults, eggs, and embryo. Crablets migrate to estuaries or yung tinatawag natin ng brackish water, tidal beaches of some rivers and mangrove area. So, din sila nagmamigrate pag crablet na sila. Adults, crab grows and during cooler months. Ibig sabihin, mas nag-grow yung crab pag mga malalamig yung months natin. More active nocturnally or parang gabi sila active. Tapos yung spawning migration of female from mangrove forests across reef flats to offshore habitats. Next slide. Broodstock. Age and maturity. Reach sexual maturity within 3 to 6 months or yung pwede na silang mag-mate, mate or pwede na silang ibenta within 3 to 6 months. Kinukulture sila in maturation tanks with typically range from 10 m3 shallow to 80 to 100 cm deep. Pwede din siya sa incubation tanks. Relatively small, 10 to 500 liters yung tubig. And yung food naman nila is mussel or perna, veredis, meat, mixed seafood. Or yung mga mixed seafood na pwede is squid, fish, and mga marine worms. Next slide. Yung sex determination naman nila ay heterosexual and show obvious sexual dimorphism. Immature female, triangular shape abdomen. As you can see dito sa picture, yung immature female crab ay ganyan yung itsura. Para siyang triangle. Tapos yung mature female naman ay border semicircular shape abdomen or parang malaki na siya na triangle. Tapos yung male naman ay T-shape abdomen. Yung nasa una. Parang pati siya. Kaya sabi T-shape abdomen. Next slide. And dito naman tayo sa spawning. A minimum weight of 200 to 300 grams from broodstock and 450 grams per spawner are designed. Ito yung mga parang characteristic or dapat ma-attain bago mag-mate yung or para sa broodstock. Tapos, nagmamature yung mud crab within yung width nung caparis niya, which is yung caparis, yung lapad or yung parang sa mga turtle yung nasa nila, yung parang takip nila or yung shells. Yung caparis naman ay yung shell nung mud crab. Pag yun ay nag-reach na ng 14 cm at nag-weight na sila ng 450 grams, ay ayun, mature na sila. Pwede na silang mag-mate. Tapos, pwede na din silang mag-mate kapag 4 months old na. Tapos, mud crab become mature and mate when they are 4 months old. Tapos, yung maturation and broodstock tank 1.5 m2 kailangan nila ng low light condition para sa mga shelter ng mga broodstock. Para ma-minimize yung mga stress level nila para hindi sila mamatay, dumami yung mga mortality at sila ay maging healthy. And yung female mud crab require access to sandy bottom to spawn their eggs successfully. Kailangan nila ng sa baba ng mga sandy bottom para makapag-spawn sila ng mga eggs na successfully na mabubuhay. Kasi parang iyon yung habitat nila, dun talaga sila nanganganak. So, para sa spawn nila, need nating lagyan ito. Next slide. Male guards female, cradling them prior to their molt. The male carries the female underneath him using 3 pairs of walking legs. Parang ginaguard nung male yung female para sa mating nila para maging successful. Tapos the male can successfully mate and transfer spermatophores into the female spermatocoum once she has molted and it's sold shelled. So parang pag magkatabi na sila, 'di ba sinabi doon na yung male ginaguards niya yung female para sa kanilang which is yung spermatophores ay yun yung sa lalaki, which is yung packets of sperm nila. Tapos yung spermatecum naman ay yun yung sa babae, parang yung sperm ng babae or eggs. Spawning occurs whole year around. Peak niya ay yung May to September na months. Tapos meron tayong 2 method of spawning, yung natural and introduced. Yung natural, parang pababayaan mo lang siyang mag-mate. Tapos magi-spawn. Yung natural method is the mud crab is left in the tanks until they become sexually mature and spawn. Yun namang induced ay yung parang yung sila ng tissue para sa kanilang spawn. Tapos yung dalawang uri nung induced is unilateral ablation. Yung unilateral ablation ay tinatanggal yung one eye stalks or yung 'di ba yung mata tapos yung dalawa, parang tinatanggal nila yon. Tapos yung bilateral ablation naman is yung dalawang eye stalk. Kinakrush nila or kinakat. Para sa more gonal development and mas maraming ma-spawn or maging eggs. Tapos yung ablation increase the appetite of mud crabs. Iyon nga, pag ginawa na yung pagtanggal nung mga eye stalk, parang yung appetite ng mud crab, yung pagkain nila is parang umi-increase. So, need natin silang mas pakainin after nun. Yung separate incubation tank is required for eggs. Isa-separate natin yung mga eggs para maiwasan natin yung mga parasitic na dumapo sa ating mga eggs and makahatch sila ng maganda. Tapos, egg hatch when the eggs turn from light orange to dark gray. So, malalaman natin na mag-hatch na yung eggs when yung light orange ay pag tinignan nyo doon sa abdomen ng babae na mud crab is nag-turn na siya ng dark gray. We're going to tackle naman the hatchery of mud crab. Place of culture, tanks. Filled with 5 to 10 tons of filtered seawater with 34 ppt salinity. Or dapat nating, yung isang tanks, dapat yung water niya is 5 to 10 tons. Tapos dapat finifilter natin yung seawater para ma-secure natin na yung eco-culture natin is magiging safe, wala silang mga parasitic bacteria or other na makakaharm sa ating mud crab. Tapos, yung when tanks are not being examined, they can be covered with plastic or similar sheeting to avoid temperature fluctuation. Yun, pag nilipat natin yung mud crab, parang hindi sila magkaka-temperature shock na pwedeng mag-control sa kanila magdulot sa kanila ng mortality. Pwede din natin gawin yung circular tanks with conical base, hemispherical round tanks, parabolic and rectangular tanks. Pwede din natin itong gamitin para sa ating hatchery. Next slide. Hatchery. Larvae goes in black tanks have higher survival rates. Kapag nilagay natin yung mga larva na mud crab sa mga black tanks, specific na black tanks, ay magkakaroon sila ng mga higher survival rates kasi parang mas sila, may mga studies na nakapagpatunay na ganon, mas malakas yung survival nila doon. The more oceanic the source of marine water, the better. The better, as that reflects of offshore water condition under which mud crab egg hatch naturally. Kasi pag marine water yung gamit natin, kasi ang mud crab siya ng mataas na salinity, and dito din nag-hatch yung egg nila naturally. Pag direct strong sunlight should be avoided. Kasi parang pag direct yung sunlight dun sa mga larva natin na mud crab, parang magkakaroon sila ng mortality, tataas yung mortality nila, parang nai-stress. Newly spawned zoea are phototactic. A light shown on a darkened spawning tanks will attract larvae towards it and the surface of the tank. Yung phototactic is yung parang movement siya nung larva, parang na-attract siya dun sa light, so pupunta siya. Or respond nung larvae to sunlight. Also, yung food nila is microalgae and live feed. Next slide. As zoea, 5 mud crab larvae metamorphoses to the megalopa stage, there can be significant cannibalism by Megalopea on zoea 5 larvae that have been yet to go through metamorphosis. So, yung metamorphosis ay yung change ng body structure or yung mga behavior nung mga zoea natin. So, kailangan natin silang ialis para maiwasan natin yung cannibalism or yung magpatayin sila or magkainan. Ideal culture and food condition are needed to improve synchrony and which larvae undertake metamorphosis. So, yung mga pag-culture natin and yung mga food na need nila, dapat nating i-improve para mas lalong yung larvae natin ay maging mas madaling lumaki para maging megalopea na agad siya at mag-undergo na agad siya ng metamorphosis. Next slide. Nursery. Place of culture. Tanks with soil. 10 cm thick yung need natin para sa ating nursery. Inoculate with lablab, yung para sa pagkain nila, yung algae. Para sa mga large tank naman, dapat may line sila. Tapos yung hanggang mud substrate sila para hindi makatakas yung mga crab natin. Tapos yung isa pang place na pwedeng ipag-culture natin is yung hapa net or net cages with 1 to 2 mm mesh size and dimension of 1 m times 1 m times 1.5 m or meters yon. Line the hapa net bottom within 3 to 5 cm thick mud substrate. Yun nga, parang kagaya din siya nung tanks para hindi makaalis yung mga nine-nursery natin na mud crab. Earthen ponds. Gracilaria, knitting, straw, or other shelter as habitat for crablets, or mud as best surface for megalopea to settle on to become crablets. Surrounded by a short fence height 2 to 40 cm, constructed of relatively fine mesh 1 to 2 cm. Knitting to ensure crablets cannot walk away para hindi din sila makatakas kasi 'di ba ang crab naghuhukay siya ng palalim, so dapat malalim yung pagkakalagay natin ng mga mesh or yung mga ponds natin, and yung kinakain nila is Artemia. Next slide. Grow out. Area for culture. Brackish pond. Dig up trench canals parallel to the dikes when polyculture with milkfish. As yung polycultured, yung dalawa yung natin, yung kinoculture natin. So, pwede natin siyang samahan ng milkfish. So, yung cages naman ay dimension of 2.0 m times 0.70 m times 0.25 meters yung m. Green nylon net with 12 mm mesh size is used for sidewalking, bottom flooring, and top movable cover. Para mas, parang mas makulong natin and mas paganda natin yung pagpapalaki natin and hindi makatakas yung mga pinapalaki nating mud crab. Next slide. Also, sa pag-ano natin ng grow out, meron tayong next, pabalik po sa last slide, sa pen. Grow out. Pen. The net is enclosed is made of green polynial net with 1 to 2 cm mesh size wooden post as structural framework. Ganyan yung pagkakaano niya para magawa natin yung pen para mas maganda yung pagpapalaki natin doon sa mud crab and mas maging healthy sila. Crab fattening. After molting, crab musculature takes some time to grow to fill its new shell. So, parang pag yung, di ba, nagmo-molts or nagpapalit ng shell yung mga mud crab natin, dun sila tinatawag na empty, tin, or water crab. Kasi malambot na yung mga skin nila. And para na din silang, malapitin na sila ng predator kasi mas madali silang kinakain. Silviculture and canal system ensure an adequate circulation and drainage. So, parang mas maganda siya kasi maganda yung mga circulation niya, mas napapaganda niya yung pagpapalaki natin sa mud crab. And may drainage siya, so napapalitan natin yung mga tubig. Cellular system. Crabs kept in individual containers. So, parang may kanya-kanya silang tanks or containers nating kung tawagin, and isa-isa sila doon. Tapos yung stocking density naman natin ay pwedeng 5,000 to 10,000 to 30,000. Tapos yung male crabs are higher final weight than female crabs. So parang mas magandang i-culture or palakihin yung mga male crabs. Pwede tayong monosex culture para mas malaki yung kikitain natin kasi sa male crabs kesa sa female crabs. Now, we're going to tackle about optimum parameters. Salinity. 10 to 25 ppt para sa ating Escherata crablets. Tapos, yung 30 to 35 ppt naman is para sa ating broodstock. The salinity tolerance is 5 to 40 ppt ng ating mud crabs. Enables them to survive in fresh water for a few hours. Tapos pupunta ulit sila sa marine water. Kasi mataas naman yung salinity nila. So, nakaka-tolerate din sila ng water sa ating ocean. And temperature is about 25 to 35 C or Celsius. Yung pH naman nila is 7.5 to 8.5. Tapos 0.5 variation diurnally. Tapos yung kailangan naman nilang mga dissolved oxygen is 5 ppm. Next slide. Nitrate and ammonia are not a concern in larva culture since they usually well below toxic level and crablets have high ammonia tolerance. So, parang hindi naaapektuhan yung crablets kasi mga high yung kanilang tolerance. Hydrogen sulfide, 0.1 ppm. Tapos yung hardness naman ay 2,000 ppm. Turbidity naman is 20 to 30 cm. So, that's all about mud crab. I'm the reporter once again, Hannah Shea Gil Arsol. Thank you po.
Good day, everyone. I'm Casey Ogarbin. Today, I'm going to report about grouper or what we call lapu-lapu. So, ang grouper po ay isa po sa pinaka-high value na isdang kinukulture po sa Asia. Sikat ito hindi lang po sa Philippines, kundi pati na rin po sa bansang tulad ng Hong Kong, Japan, at Singapore dahil sa malinamnam at firm na laman nito. So dahil po dito, mataas po yung presyo nito sa market at malaking tulong po sa kabuhayan ng mga fish farmers, lalo na sa mga coastal communities. And makikilala po ang grouper na mataba at stout na katawan, may brown spots, at malaking bibig na nakaprotrude ang lower jaw. And isa itong effective predator kaya mabilis tumubo kapag tama ang feeding. So sa taxonomy naman po is kabilang po ito sa family Sirenidae. And meron po siyang higit 40 species na matatagpuan po sa tropical waters. So dito po sa Pilipinas, ang karaniwang kinukulture ay ang orange spotted grouper or yung tinatawag na Epenepelus at yung Malabar grouper or yung tinatawag na Epenepelus malabaricus. Next slide. So, pagdating naman po sa life history, interesting po ang grouper dahil po kakaiba po yung life cycle nito. So, sa adult grouper ay carnivorous at kumakain po ng small fish, shrimps, at crustaceans and kaya po nilang mag-produce ng isang female na 400,000 to 700,000 eggs per kilogram ng body weight. So, kaya mataas po ang potential ng reproduction. And ang eggs nito ay pelagic. So, ibig sabihin po, lumulutang po siya sa tubig. And maliit ang sukat nila at may oil globule para po manatiling buoyant and nag-hatch po ang eggs after 18 to 20 hours kapag nasa tamang temperature. Pag nagpisa naman na po ito, sobrang liit at delicate ang larvae. So, meron silang long spines at dark pigments na nagsisilbing protection po. And dito po, critical ang pagpapakain dahil kailangan nila ng live feeds. Tulad po ng copepods, rotifers at oyster larvae. So sa stage po na ito, malaking challenge ang pag-maintain ng green water at tamang density para po makaiwas sa cannibalism at mortality. And pagdating naman po ng 35 to 50 days, nagiging prey na po sila at mas active po sa paglangoy at pagkain. Eventually naman po is nagiging juvenile sila at kumakain ng mas malalaking prey tulad ng ascites at mysids. Sa stage po na ito, nagsisimula na po silang lumipat mula sa shallow waters papuntang deeper areas. Isa sa pinaka-unique po na katangian ng grouper ay ang sex reversal nila. So lahat sila ay female muna. Parang nag-i-start po sila sa female at nagiging male po sila kapag umabot ng 65 to 75 cm. Dahil po dito is mahalagang i-manage ang male to female ratio sa broodstock. Next slide. And sa broodstock naman po, dito naman po nagmamature ang grouper sa edad na 4 to 6 years old. Sa Pilipinas, year-round ang spawning, maliban po sa buwan ng May. And meron po tayong pwedeng gawin, yung pwedeng gawin ng spawning ng natural gamit ang tamang temperature at induced spawning. Gamit naman po ang hormones tulad ng HCG or GnRHA. Sa fertilization po, maingat na minimix ang eggs at milk or yung tinatawag po na similya para po siguradong viable ang embryos. Next. And sa hatchery po, dito naman po kinokollect ang mga eggs gamit ang soft depth nets para po hindi masira. And yung good eggs, ang mga transparent, buoyant, at bilog po siya. So ini-stack po ang mga ito sa large tanks na may controlled stacking density para po maiwasan po yung stress at overcrowding. And dito naman po napakahalaga ng green water method. Gamit ang microalgae tulad po ng Nanochloropsis at Chlorella dahil po nagbibigay po ito ng stable environment at natural food source para sa larvae. And next po nito is yung live feeds. Ang binibigay tulad ng rotifers, coffee pods para po suportahan yung kanilang growth. And pagdating naman po sa nursery, nililipat naman po ang fry sa mas malalaking cages or earthen ponds. So karaniwang laki ng cages po ay 4 times 2 times 1.5 hanggang 8 times 4 times 1.6 meters. Sa Pilipinas po, marami pa rin gumagamit ng traditional method sa pagkuha ng fry tulad ng bonbon, gango, at patugmon. Sa feeding naman po is gumagamit ng hilaw. Gumagamit po sila ng ilaw para po ma-attract ng natural food at nagbibigay din po ng chopped trash fish or yung mysid shrimp po. So ang stacking density po nito ay around 60 fry per square meter for 30 to 35 days. Next. Sa grow out culture po, dito naman po pinapalaki po yung mga grouper hanggang maging market size po. So gumagamit po ng bigger cages tulad ng 5 times 5 times 3 meter na may tamang water flow. So ang stacking density po ay nasa 5,000 juveniles per hectare. And ang feeding practices po nila ay maaaring gamit ang live tilapia bilang prey or chopped fish para po mas mabilis ang growth and umaabot po ng 5 to 7 months bago maging harvestable size ang grouper. So kapag nag-harvest na po ay gumagamit po ng next slide po is next slide. So sa pag-harvest naman po is umaabot po sila ng 5 to 7 months bago maging harvestable size ang grouper. Kapag nag-harvest po, gumagamit po ito ng drag net or left net at ang maliliit na isda, ang mga maliliit po ay hindi na pag hindi pa market size ay ibinabalik po sa cages. And next slide po. Optimum parameters, dito po is mahalaga po yung stages ang water quality management. So, ang grouper po ay sa salinity po is 18 to 32 ppt and sa temperature naman po is 27 to 30 degrees Celsius and sa dissolved oxygen naman po ay 5 mg and dapat po yung near zero ang ammonia at mababa po yung nitrate levels para po maiwasan ang stress, diseases at fish kill. And ayun nga po sa nitrate dapat ay 0.1 ppm pag sa mga larvae and then kapag 1 ppm naman po kapag sa mga juveniles at adults. And yun nga po yung ang pag-aalaga po ng grouper ay isang complicated po siya pero rewarding na process. Kailangan nito ng tamang kaalaman sa biology, life stages, feeding at water quality para po maging successful yung pag-aalaga ng grouper. So sa kabila po ng mga challenges is napakalaki po ng kita at opportunity na dala ng grouper sa aquaculture. Lalo na po sa mga coastal communities sa Philippines. na umaasa po sa sustainable fish production. And yun lang po. Thank you po. Okay na, next na.
Good day, sir. I am Jonna May Durandes. So now we are going to tackle about shrimp. So, unang-una po sa classification ng shrimp, kabilang po sila sa phylum Arthropoda. So, ibig sabihin po, meron silang jointed legs at exoskeleton. So, kasama rin po sila sa class ng Crustacea kung saan kabilang din po yung mga alimango, hipon at talangka. Sa order naman po is Decapoda. Ibig sabihin po nito ay meron po silang 10 paa. So, sa family naman po is kasama sila sa Peneidae at dito makikita yung mga kilalang uri ng mga hipon gaya po ng Peneus monodon or yung tinatawag na tiger shrimp or sugpo. At yung isa naman po ay Letopeneus banamei or yung white-leg shrimp. So, sa history naman po tayo ng shrimp, noong una po, so hindi pa po talaga sinasadya yung pag-culture ng sugpo dito sa Pilipinas. Ang nangyayari yung mga hipon o sugpo fry ay napapadpad lang sa mga milkfish ponds kapag may high tide. So, nung napansin po ng mga fish farmers na maganda yung kita kapag may nahuhuling sugpo, nagsimula na silang mag-stock ng fry galing sa dagat. Next. So, pagdating po naman ng 1960, dahil po tumaas ang demand ng shrimp sa international market, nagkaroon na po ng hatchery-produced fry. Ibig sabihin, pinapalaki na nila sa controlled environment. So, hindi na sila umaasa sa mga hipon na galing sa dagat. Pagdating naman po ng 1980 to 1989, naging malaki na yung industriya. So may hatchery na, naging semi-intense at intensive farming na rin. At nung panahon po ito, Japan ang naging major market ng shrimp mula sa Asia. So halos 80% ng produkto ay pumapasok sa Japan. Next. Pagdating naman po ng 1992, 1995, dito na po bumagsak yung Japanese market. Kaya po nagkaroon na ng restart or adjustment period. Nagkaroon po ng mga bagong teknolohiya at mas maraming investors. So, tinatawag ito minsan na shrimp rush or shrimp fever dahil sa mga daming gustong pumasok na sa industriya. Pagdating naman po ng 1996 to 1999, dito na po nagsimulang bumagsak ang industriya dahil sa mga sakit, lalo na yung tinatawag na viral diseases. So mula po noon, patuloy na bumaba yung prawn production. So pagdating naman po ng 2002 present, nagkaroon na ng mga eco-friendly protocols at research mula sa CEFDEC at BIFAR, kung saan mas pinaganda na po yung technology sa shrimp culture. Unti-unti ring umangat muli yung production mula 34,627 metric ton noong 1999, naging 42,390 metric ton noong 2001. So, ibig sabihin po nito, bumabawi na ulit yung industriya ng sugpo. Next. So, may dalawang klase po ng shrimp base sa telecom structure ng babae. So, yung telecom structure po, yun yung part kung saan po na i-deposit ng sperm ng male shrimp. So, una po is yung open telecom species or ito po yung mga shrimp na galing sa western countries. So, kadalasan po ginagamit nila yung artificial light para makontrol ang spawning schedule. Halimbawa po nito is yung Letopeneus banamei or yung tinatawag nating white-leg shrimp. So, pangalawa naman po is itong closed telecom species. So, ito naman po yung mga Asian species tulad ng Peneus monodon or yung sugpo. So, ginagamit lang po nila yung natural light at natural din yung kanilang spawning cycle. So, in short po, yung white-leg shrimp or yung sila yung kadalasang imported or introduced species. Habang yung sugpo ay ito naman po yung native or local species sa atin. Next. So, sa life history naman po, so yung buhay ng shrimp ay meron po silang iba't ibang yugto. So, first is yung adult stage or 10 months old sila dito. Dito po, fully grown na sila at nakatira na sila sa malalim na bahagi ng dagat. So, aktibo sila sa gabi or nocturnal. Ito po yung nabanggit ni Hana sa unang report. At sa araw naman po, sila ay nakabaon lang sa buhangin. So, predatory din sila. Ibig sabihin nito, kumakain sila ng ibang maliliit na hayop, hindi lang lumot or basura. So, sa eggs and embryo naman po, pagkatapos po ng mating, yung babae ay nangingitlog. At sa loob po ng 12 hours, mape-fertilize yung itlog. So, planktonic din po sila. Ibig sabihin, lumulutang-lutang lang sa tubig. So, sa larval stage naman, tumatagal ng 20 days at dadaan sa mga stage na Noctius, Zoa, and Mysis. Sa mga stage po na ito, lumalaki at nagbabago ng itsura nila. So, dito na po sila kadalasang nakatira sa estuaries at mangroves dahil po dito mas protektado at may pagkain sila. So, last is post-larvae. Pagkatapos po ng mysis stage, nagiging post-larvae stage na sila. So, ibig sabihin, ito na po yung maliliit na shrimp na pwedeng ilipat sa grow-out ponds. So, ang karaniwang ginagamit sa stocking ay mga post-larvae 15 to post-larvae 25. Next. So, pagdating naman po ng broodstock, ito ba yung mga adult shrimp na ginagamit para magparami. So, sa age at maturity, yung male po ay nagiging matured sila sa about 20 grams. Tapos yung female naman is 28 grams. So, mga 6 to 7 months old. So, sa culture area naman po, nilalagay sila sa mga circular tanks na may madilim na pader at puting buhangin sa ilalim. So, kaya sila nilalagay doon kasi binabawasan nila yung liwanag para hindi sila may stress. So, sa foods naman po, pinapakain sila ng mga commercial feeds mussels, squid, at may halong COD liver oil para sa fats at hormones. So, sa spawning naman po, minsan ginagawa yung eye stalk ablation or yung eye stalk ablation, ito po yung tinatanggal yung isang eyeball para ma-stop ang hormone na pumipigil sa pag-mature ng ovary. So, sa ganitong paraan, mas mabilis silang mag-itlog. So, pero dapat maingat kasi kapag parehong mata na yung tinanggal, magkakaroon ng stress at mamamatay yung shrimp. Next. So, sa hatchery naman po, dito pinapaitlog at pinapalaki yung mga bagong pisa na larvae. So, ang tanks nila is yung malalaking tangke, 10 to 50 toads na may malinis na seawater at aeration. So, sa stocking naman nila is 50,000 to 80,000 nupli per ton. So, sa food naman nila, pinapakain sila ng microalgae tulad ng Chaetocerus, Tetraselmes at Skeletonema at kapag may ses naman na sila, dinadagdagan ng Artemia or yung brine shrimp. So, sa duration, kapag nasa post-larvae stage na, ililipat na sila sa nursery tanks. Next. So, sa nursery naman, ito yung transition stage bago sila ilagay sa malaking grow-out pond. So, sa place, karaniwang ginagamit sa kanila ay brackish water ponds or floating cages or raceways. Dito, kontrolado na yung tubig at feeding nila. So, sa stocking density, 50 to 100 per metric cube, metric square meter kung walang feeds at mas mataas kapag may supplementary feeds. So sa feeding, sa una pinapakain ng fish paste tapos pag lumaki na ng post larvae 11, binibigyan ng chopped fish or mussel meat. So sa duration nila mga 30 days lang bago sila i-transfer sa grow out. Next. So, sa grow out naman, ito na yung final stage kung saan pinapalaki na yung mga shrimp hanggang sa harvest size. So, may iba't ibang system. Una is yung traditional flow through with water treatment, zero water discharge, at recirculating system. Ito yung kung saan yung tubig ay nililinis muna bago i-reuse para makatipid at maiwasan yung pollution. So, mayroon ding technologies by SIFDEC. Pero dito mababa lang stocking density. So ito din is may green water technology at probiotics para natural yung paglaki nila. So may aeration at settling ponds na rin para malinis ang tubig. So dito din gumagamit na sila ng biosecurity measures para iwas sakit. Next. So, sa harvest po, yung duration nila is 4 to 6 months bago i-harvest. So, sa partial harvest nila, gumagamit muna sila ng bamboo traps or yung tinatawag na bakikong. Tapos sa total harvest naman, gumagamit na sila ng bag net habang dinidrain ang tubig. So, sa food nila, sa feed requirements nila, dapat 38 to 46% ng protein ang feeds. Depende rin dito sa salinity kung ano lumot or algae ang tutubo sa pond bilang natural food nila. Next. So, sa optimum parameters naman po, para sa shrimp, mahalaga yung tamang kondisyon ng tubig. So, sa salinity, dapat 10 to 25 ppt. Sa temperature, 25 to 32 Celsius. Sa pH 6.5 to 8.7. Sa dissolved oxygen dapat ay higit sila sa 3.5 ppm. Sa ammonia naman dapat mas mababa lang sa 1.0 ppm. Sa nitrate 0.1 ppm and then sa CHDs higit dapat sa 50 cm. So kung lampas or kulang sa mga values na yan, madaling ma-stress at magkasakit ang shrimp. Kaya dapat laging sinusukat ng mga shrimp farmers ang mga parameter na ito everyday. Yun lang po. Thank you.
Hey, sir. For the mussels and oysters, I'm the reporter. Then, the basic information about the mussels. First, farm in deep water but can face contaminant due to pollution. Ang mga taong ay karaniwang pinapalaki sa mas malalalim na bahagi ng tubig dahil mas malamig at mas malinis ang daloy dito. Pero sila ay filter feeders, kaya kapag ang tubig ay marumi at kontaminado, maaari rin silang magkaroon ng pollutant tulad ng heavy metals, bacteria, or toxins. Dahil dito, importante na malinis ang lugar ng kanilang culture area. Second, for the characteristic, attach firmly using basal threads. Kumakapit ang mga taho gamit ang tinatawag na basal threads or parang maliliit na nahibla or sapot na nilalabas nila para dumikit sa mga substrate tulad ng mga lubid, mga bamboo, and mga stones. Dahil dito hindi sila madaling matanggal kahit malakas ang alon. Sa taxonomy naman, phylum Mollusca, class Bavalia, order Miltilida, family Miltilidae. Sa species and variants, ang una ay ang Perna viridis o kilala natin sa mas tinatawag na green mussels or tahong in short. Ito ang pinakilala at kadalasang kinukultura sa Pilipinas. berde ang shell nito. And next, the Miltilus edulis or blue mussel. Madalas makita ito sa malalamig na bansa at kulay asul ang shell nito. And next, the Modulus metcalfei or brown mussels o amahong. Madalas makita sa mas mainit na lugar. Kulay brown ang shells nito. Para sa mussels, the most common type cultured in the Philippines is the Perna viridis or green mussel tahong. Ang diet nila ay filter feeder. Then ang size nila lumalaki sila to 6 to 10 centimeters. Next slide po. Next slide po. Sa basic information naman sa oyster, pabalik nga. And basically, information about oyster, characteristic, popular seafood with excellent flavor and high nutrients. Ang talaba ay kilala bilang masarap na seafood at mataas na sa proteins, vitamins, and minerals like zinc, iron, and calcium. Kaya ito ay masustansya at mataas ang demand. Shells are used for lime, poultry grids, and spot collectors. Ginagamit sa paggawa ng apog or lime. And ginagamit sila bilang poultry grids na tumutulong sa pagdigestion ng mga manok. Ginagamit sila bilang spot collectors dahil dito kumakapit ang mga oyster larvae para magsimula ng kanilang paglaki. Sa taxonomy naman, phylum Mollusca, class Bavalia, order Oystrida, family Oystridae. History. Ang history ng oyster ay ang oyster farming sa Pilipinas ay nagsimula noong 1921 sa Hinigaran, Negros Occidental. Ito ang kauna-unahang lugar kung saan sinubukan at na-develop ang oyster culture techniques. Then, ang top producer nga, Negros Occidental, Pangasinan, and Cavite. Sa species and variant naman, hindi mawawala yung Crassostheria iridae or sleeper-shaped oyster. Talabang tsinelas, hugis siya tsinelas, mas malinis ang shells at mabilis lumaki. In seconds, the Crassostheria malaboneses o kung kabayo, subtrigonal oysters. Mas matigas ang shell nito at mas mataba ang laman. Then, next is Crassostheria cucullata or curly oyster. Kulot makapal at makulot ang shells. And panghuli yung Crassostheria palmiper or palm roof oyster or pulid-pulid, hugis parang bubong o palad ang shells. Then para sa oyster, the Crassostheria iridae, talabang tsinelas, which is mabilis silang lumaki at easy to open siya. Ayun yung pinaka-common sa Pilipinas or ayun yung makikita natin sa picture. And both of them ay both of the species, the mussel and oyster, ay parehas na bivalve species. Ibig sabihin, nito meron silang dalawang shells. Then next slide po. Nagre-report ako. Sa life stage, we have two stage, the free swimming larvae and attached adult. Larvae or planktonic free swimming around 7 to 15 days. Depende sa water temperature. Then after 2 to 5 weeks old, maghahanap na sila ng matitigas na bagay tulad ng mga kahoy, lubid, or bato para doon dumikit bago sila magsettle as patch. Young patch grow 3 to 4 millimeters within 4 to 8 weeks. Then pag nakadikit na sila, after 4 to 8 weeks, umaabot na sila ng laki na mahigit 3 to 4 millimeters bago sila maging adult. Ano nga ba yung spots? para silang mga juvenile stage na mga mussels and oysters after nila mag-attach sa mga hard surface or shells. In short, para silang newly settled larvae. Sa egg and embryo naman, egg hatch into larvae or free-swimming planktons for 2 to 3 weeks before settling. Yung settlement nila, surface ay rocks, shells, and logs. After hatching, larvae swim for a few weeks, then magiging spot na nga sila bago sila mag-attach to rocks, shells, and logs. And the spawning seasons, they usually settle during specific months depending on the species. Sa mussels, April to May, and October to November. Sa oyster naman, January to February, and July to September. Next slide po. Hatchery broodstocks from wild. Mussel have high fecundity or mabilis mag-produce ng maraming larvae kaya madali silang i-culture. And have free-swimming larvae making them widely distributed. Spot collector use ropes made of polyethylene, palm, or coconut fiber, like hanging method or stick method in the wild. Nilalagyan nila ng shells or pabigat yung ropes bago nila ibaba sa seawaters. Then doon na ididikit yung mga juvenile and mussels. Age of maturity. Reach sexual maturity in 6 to 10 months. Karaniwan silang nangingitlog tuwing mainit ang panahon. Sa place of culture and foods naman nila, broodstock keep in float fruit tank with high water flow and low density. Ibig sabihin yung mga adult mussels and oyster daw, nilalagay nila sa tank na may high flowing water and low density. Then isinasabit sila sa mesh tray na may malalaking butas para hindi maipon yung mga dumi nila. Then sa feeds naman nila, organic particles, kaya sila filter feeders. Then yung mga culture microalgae din kinakain nila, like the phytoplanktons like Tetraselmis and Isochirisis. Next slide po. Next slide. Pabalik po onte isa. Yan. Then sa sex determination naman, they have productric hermaphrodites. Ibig sabihin, pwede sila mag-switch gender, male to female. And oyster may change sex multiple. Some mussels and oyster pwede silang magbago ng kasarian depende on their environment food availability. Then sa spawning and hatchery production naman, spawning in tank, fertilization in water. Sa spawning, ang mga adult ay pinapakitlog muna sa mga tanks, tapos kaya nila mag-release ng millions of gametes or itlog sa tubig bago maganap yung fertilization nila. Kapag naman kukuha sila ng adult mula sa dagat, pinadala muna ito sa hatchery at doon muna nililinisan bago ilagay sa mga tanks. Larvae grow 13 to 15 days until ready to settle on ropes. Nursery, larvae grow from 1 mm to 6 to 10 mm before grow out. Sa hatchery production daw, kapag lumaki na mga larvae sa loob ng halos 2 linggo or 13 to 15 days, hanggang sanda na silang dumikit sa mga lubid, pwede na silang ilipat sa nursery hanggang maging 6 to 10 mm. At kapag sapat na ang laki nila, pwede na silang ilagay sa dagat or seawaters na tinatawag na grow-out system para lalong palakihin hanggang sa maging adult bago i-harvest. And spot collectors, oyster shells tied to ropes at 5 to 6 centimeters interval. Then sa ropes naman, sa mussels, ropes with coconut husk 5 to 6 centimeters interval and hang 10 centimeters apart with weights. Ba't minsan kailangan ng mga oyster ang mga empty shells kaysa sa mga mussel na pwede na kahit ropes lang? Because sa oysters, kailangan nila ng stable surface para mag-attach sila dun permanently, like I said kanina. Then sa mussels naman, dahil meron silang ang basal thread or parang sapot, yun yung ginagamit nila para mag-attach sa mga hard surface. Kaya minsan, hindi na nila kailangan yung mga empty shells like oysters. Then, next slide po. Then, area for culture. First, the stakes method or tulos, bamboo poles, set 0.5 to 1 meters apart in muddy bottom. Simple and cheap but bamboo lasts only 2 years. Common in Cavite, Dagupan, Pangasinan, and Bataan. Next, hanging method or beating. Ropes with cocoa fiber or oyster shells placed every 10 centimeters apart. And set during spawning season. Mussel grow on ropes until harvest or marketable size. Then third, the rope web method. Use 12 millimeter synthetic ropes made into vertical webs tied to bamboo poles. Rope clean and dried for next seasons. Then tray cultures naman. Detached mussel clusters placed in bamboo metal trays with 1.5 by 1 by 0.15 meters. Used for limited and controlled culture. Next slide po. For oysters naman, area for culture. Similar to mussels, stick method or tulos. Then next is lattice method or beating. Use bamboo tied with wire or nylon, space 15 to 30 centimeters apart. Can be set on rocks or suspended horizontally, vertically using bamboo or drums. Then third, hanging method or sampayan. Oyster or coconut shell tied to ropes at 10 cm interval. During harvest, collectors are remove oysters, separate and clean. Then fourth, the broadcast method or sabog. Hard object like shells, stones, and can scattered on the bottom where spotfall occurs. Very low cost but prone to siltation, predation, and loss due to currents. Next slide po. Then, babalik ko. Yan. Area for culture naman for mussel and oyster. Kanina sa mussel and oyster, ngayon, both of them, ang ano nila ay rough culture. Rough or 6 by 8 meters made of bamboo with metal plastic drums or styrofoam as float anchored to the bottom. For oyster collection, ropes tied to the rough at 50 centimeters interval. And for the mussels naman, use 2 cm diameter rope, synthetic or native fiber with bamboo piece every 30 centimeters to prevent slipping. Ropes tied to rough at 50 centimeters interval. Rough culture is the most efficient and ideal sa pag-culture ng mussels and oysters dahil madaling mag-harvest dito at madali lang siyang i-maintain. Yun lang. Next slide po. For harvest, mussels ready for harvest after 6 months or 6 centimeters long. Sa oyster naman, ready for harvest after 8 months or 7.5 centimeters long. They are harvested by pulling up the ropes or stakes and clean the shells before selling. Next slide. For optimum parameters naman, sa salinity, 27 to 35 ppt for the ideal for the mussels and 17 to 26 ppt naman for the oyster. Then sa temperature, the ideal is 20 to 30 Celsius and depth at least 1.5 to 2.5 meters at the lowest tide for traditional and at least 5.0 meters naman for non-traditional culture method. The site must be non-shifting or soft and muddy to bottom to minimize siltation. And yun lang po. Thank you. Next reporter.
So, giant clams. Genus name Tridacnidae. Basic info. Giant clams are large marine bivalve mollusks native to the Indo-Pacific region. The symbiosis. Their most significant feature is the symbiotic relationship with a photosynthetic dinoflagellate algae called Zooxanthellae. So yung Zooxanthellae pala, isa siyang algae na nagbibigay ng pagkain sa clams at sa mga corals din. Species. There are currently 12 recognized species including the largest Tridacna gigas, which can grow over 1.2 meters up to 4 feet and weigh more than 200 kilograms up to 440 pounds. Status. Many wild populations have been disseminated due to the overexploitation for their meat and shells, and leading to extensive mariculture efforts for conservation and commercial purposes. 'Di ba nakikita nyo na yung clams or yung malalaking clams parang ginagawa siyang pang-decors. Isa na rin yun sa pinagkakakitaan sa kanya. Life history of giant clams. Giant clams have a relatively short non-feeding larval stage compared to other bivalves. Hermaphroditism. They are protandric hermaphrodites, meaning pinanganak silang lalaki, umpisa. Habang tumatanda sila, nagiging babae sila. Ginagawa nila to para maiwasan yung self-fertilization. The spawning. The spawning is typically triggered by environmental cues like temperature changes or the presence of gametes from other clams. They release sperm first, then eggs into the water column for external fertilizations. Yun na nga. Para maiwasan yung self-fertilization, pinapanganak muna silang lalaki habang bata pa. Tapos sila yung nagre-release ng sperm para dun sa mga matatagal na clams or yung mga adult. Next. Larval stages. The fertilized egg develops quickly into a motile trochophore larva, then a villager larva, which swims using a ciliated bill or velum. The settlement. After a short larval period, or 7 to 21 days, depending on species and conditions, the larva settles onto a substrate, loses its swimming organ, develops siphons, and becomes a posset juvenile, assuming the sedimentary lifestyle of the adult. So, the symbiotic Zooxanthellae are acquired either from the water column or through maternal transfer. Broodstock. The broodstock refers to the mature and healthy clams kept to produce the next generation of larvae. The selections. Clams selected for broodstock should be healthy and large and free of parasites or damage. The conditioning. In a hatchery, conditioning is the process of inducing gametogenesis or ripening of gonads to make the clams ready for spawning and often by simulating optimal and natural conditions into proper temperature and ample light. Sa spawning induction, merong 4. Nandito yung thermal shock, quickly raising the water temperature, serotonin injection, the injection of neurotransmitter serotonin. And yung isa, UV treated seawater. Use filtered seawater treated with UV light. And ang pang-apat, gamete introduction. Introducing sperms and eggs from another clam. Next is hatchery. The hatchery phase is the controlled rearing of larvae of the post-set or early juvenile stage. Una, the eggs are incubated in clean, filtered seawater. Larvae are typically reared at low densities and fed cultured of microalgae during the villager stage. So dito, pinapakaan nila ng maraming algae yung clams. And the settlements, once the larvae are ready to settle, they are provided with a suitable substrate onto rough surface or fine mesh on which to attach and undergo metamorphosis. Ang paghahanda, culture, newly settled clams are cared for until they are large enough to be moved to the nursery, often relying on both their symbiotic zooxanthellae and complemental microalgae food. Nursery. The nursery stage involves rearing small juveniles to a larger size suitable and grow out. Merong dalawa, the land-based nursery tank. Early juveniles are kept in tanks and raised space with flowing filtered seawater. They are required highlight for zooxanthellae growth. Filtration around 25 cubic meter is used to prevent entry of predators like the Simultaneum snail larva. So yung zooxanthellae daw kailangan ng light para makapag-produce ng foods saka ng makapagparami. Ocean nursery. Once clams are around 1 to 3 centimeter in length, they can be moved to the ocean. They are placed in protective cages or trays, like modular mesh. These cages at depths of 3 to 6 meters, up to 10 to 20 feet on the reef. Sa grow out, the grow out phase is when clams are raised from the nursery size, typically 4 to 5 centimeter to market size or stock enhancement size. Site selection. Saan ba yun? Wait. Sige. Sites should be sheltered with good water flow, stable salinity and temperature, and a depth of 3 to 6 meters, up to 10 to 20 feet. Protection. Clams are kept in cages or elevated rocks until they reach a size of 15 and 20 centimeters that offers resistance to major predators. Hatchery release for stock enhancements and project releasing clams to the wilds. Juveniles are typically released when they reach a size greater than 8 cm for better survival. Land-based grow out can involve large tanks with high water exchange or sometimes nitrogen spiking to enhance growth. Next is optimum parameters. The optimal parameters are crucial for maximizing growth and survival in culture. The temperature needed, optimal range, is typically 25 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius. Temperatures outside this range can stress the clams and disrupt the zooxanthellae symbiosis. The salinity needed, clams are prefer full strength seawater with a salinity of approximately 32 to 35 ppt for rapid or significant changes of detrimental. The light needed, high light intensity is critical for the photosynthetic activity of the zooxanthellae. which provides the majority of the clamp's energy. Clams are typically cultured in shallow, clear water. And the water quality, good water flow is necessary for gas exchange and waste removal. And low turbidity is prepared as suspended sediments can interfere with feeding and light penetration. Yun lang. Next.
Good day po. Ang sunod naman po na topic natin ay ang abalone. So, basic info ng abalone, common name, abalone, scientific or family name, Haliotidae, size up to 12 inches or 30 cm, varies with species. And then habitat, coastal waters, animal type, invertebrates. Range depends on species from intertidal ledge down to the deep reefs at 213 feet or 64.9 meter. And diets po ng ating abalone ay algae. So, ang abalone po ay isang marine snail na kadalasang may berdeng kulay na matatagpuan sa mababa at mababatong parte ng karagatan. Ang abalone ay isang high-value species na mayroong mataas na demand sa ating market, kaya maganda ito alagaan or i-culture. Aside from that, maiwasan nating mag-rely dun sa supply na meron sa ating karagatan. And through aquaculture, mas napapabilis at napapadami natin yung abalone. So, ma-avoid yung pagkaubos nila dun sa kanilang habitat. And yun po. Next ay taxonomy po ng ating abalone, phylum Mollusca, class Gastropoda, order Lepidolaiba, family Haliotidae, genus Haliotis or CU. And we have 100 species of abalone around the world, and here are the top producers. Like in the country China, Japan, Hong Kong, USA, Mexico, Korea, and Europe. And we have 3 species naman po here in the Philippines, marine waters, which is the Haliotis asinina or the donkey ears abalone. Grow to maximum size of 10 to 11 cm in shell length. Existing commercial abalone fisheries in the province of Iloilo, Guimaras, Negros, Samar, Surigao, Zamboanga, Palawan, and Tawi-Tawi. Locally named Kapinan, Lapas, Sobra-Sobra, or Piel. Haliotis varia, shell length 6 to 8 cm, and Haliotis ovina shell length 6 to 8 cm din po. And ayun po yung basic info ng ating abalone. Let's proceed to life history ng abalone. Like other gastropods, the abalone shell is part of its body. It is considered an exoskeleton protecting it during low tides and from predators and other bodily harm. The shell grows as the abalone grows. Abalone shells are made of calcium carbonate. The innermost layer is made of a specific type of calcium carbonate called nacre, or mother of pearl, which in the past was widely used for jewelry and other decorative arts. Abalone are mostly sedentary and assumptional strong. They cling to rocks while waiting for a piece of kelp to drip nearby. The abalone clumps down on the kelps with its foot and then munches on algae with its radula, a tongue-like band with many small teeth. So, ito po ay isang natural history which is dinescribe lang po yung kung ano yung abalone. Ayun po, matatagpuan nga rin po talaga sila sa mababatong parte, even sa deeper sea. And ayun nga po, there are snake. And other info lang po, kung makakapanood po kayo ng mga Korean dramas, yung mga mid-30s to 40s po is women ay nagda-dive or nagkukuha ng abalone from the deeper sea po. Kung sa atin po is sa mababang parte, yung ano naman po sa Korea ay nasa deeper level sea po ata yung mga abalone po. So, ayun lang po sa life history ng abalone. Next naman po ay ang broodstock, which is, ito po yung mga dapat nating tandaan or malaman para sa pag-broodstock management ng ating abalone. So, maturity, captive abalone mature 6 to 8 months at 35 to 40 millimeter shell size, enhanced by nutrition, high temperature, photoperiod. So, culture, broodstock, 1 ton tanks with filtered seawater, mesh cage, and gutters. So, ayun po yung mga dapat natin ihanda para sa pagkukulture ng ating abalone. And then, food naman po nila, herbivores, villager larvae, and then juvenile, eat macroalgae, and then seaweed. Sex determination naman po ng abalone. Dioecious female, or dito po natin malalaman kung babae or lalaki yung ating abalone. So, kapag dark green grayish yung gonads nila, ayun ay female. And then naman, milky white, yung gonad ay male. Gravid animal shows gonad ball between shell and foot. So, ayun po. Matatagpuan po yun under, between shell and foot yung kanilang mga gonads. And, bulk na daw po yun if, ready to spawn na po sila. So, ito naman po yung spawning. Stock 50 to 60 millimeter adults, 1 male, and 3 to 4 female, 20 to 30 cages, feed Glacilaria ad libitum. So, dito po ay, ayun nga po, specific na pinapakain sa kanila na seaweed ay yung Glacilaria and ad libitum siya. And then, males release milk, triggering female spawning. Females, 50 to 80 millimeters, spawn 100,000 to 1 million eggs. Spawning occurs 1 to 3 a.m. So, ayun po. Kapag ready na po to spawn yung ating abalone. And then, next naman po ay ang induced spawning method, which is, ito po yung pag-control ng reproduction ng abalone since 100,000 nga po to 1 million eggs yung pinoproduce ng ating abalone. So, una po doon is gamete stripping or sacrifice of adults. Dito naman po ay parang dinadissect po yung female abalone to get the eggs. Ayun po. And desiccation or thermal shock. Yung desiccation po ay stressor that control physiology or survival ng abalone. And through thermal shock ay nakakontrol din po yung production nung eggs and sperm nung ating abalone. Unreliable use with UV. And third naman po ay chemical induction. Ito naman po ay gagamit ng hydrogen peroxide. Don't combine with UV. Use reagent grade 30% H2O2. Increase pH to 9.1 with 3 hydroxymethylamine or methane. Dilute H2O2 to 6%. Add 3 ml or liter. Expose abalone for 2.5 hours, then wash thoroughly. And doon po sa hydrogen peroxide ay nilalagay po nila yon to trick the abalone na mag-spawn po. And then last po is yung UV light irradiated seawater. Harmless to gametes, no water changes needed. Ideal UV strength 800 mW/h liter. All haliotis discuss honey. Ito po ata ay ang Japanese alum. And male gamete release 3 hours to 15 minutes and female 3 hours to 45 minutes. Ito po ay using yung UV light irradiated sa mature na abalone. And through that po ay nagkakaroon po sila ng thinking to spawn. And then spawning interval 13 to 37 days. Younger females spawn more frequently. Shell must be free of fouling, especially Polydora infestation. So, ang Polydora infestation po ay isang polyworm po ata. Polyworm po na nakaka-affect dun po sa ating abalone. Or it's a kind of bacteria or sakit po siya na na-affect po yung growth and nasisira po yung shell ng ating abalone. And then, next naman po ay ang hatchery. Stocking. Fertilize your eggs, incubate in dark overnight, hatch in 24 hours. Collect spawn eggs 6 to 7 a.m. Select top to 70 or 80% of hatched larvae. Stock at 5 to 10 larvae ml in filtered seawater, minimal aeration. First 24 hours. Belliger, free swimming, settle after 4 to 5 days. Metamorphose into benthic juveniles. So, ayun nga po. After ma-spawn and then meron na pong ma-hatch na larvae, which is kailangan kinolect po nila yung mga eggs na to 70 to 80% and then sinettle po nila for 4 to 5 days. At ready na po nila for juvenile. Ito po yung mga stimulants na makaka-help dun sa ating mga villagers, which is the diatoms, mucus, GVA, and those settlement. And their stocking density, 250 to 300 larvae liter in settlement tanks. So usually po, ganun lang po kadami yung inilalagay nila sa mga tanks. And then feeding naman po is benthic diatoms are essential for post-metamorphosis larvae. Prepare tanks 1 week prior to grow diatoms on PVC sheets. Use filtered seawater, continuous flow, and illumination 2,500 to 3,000 LX. Common diatoms, Navicula, Coconase, Amphora, and Lucidia. Next naman po is nursery. So, primary. Culture, static water for 8 to 10 days. Post-stocking to allow settlement. Mild aeration starts on day 5. Ambient light during the day. 40-watt fluorescent lamps at night. 50 cm above tanks. Continuous filtered seawater from day 10. So, ayun po, kapag na-nursery na po yung ating abalone, kailangan po nila ng lights during the day and night po. And dapat yung tubig po ay continuous water flow po. And then duration naman po ay 60 days until juvenile reach 5 to 10 millimeter shell length. And then stocking density 50,000 to 300 larvae per 1 ton tank creeping behavior. And then harvest juvenile are moved to secondary nursery tanks or basket. And then secondary naman po ng ating nursery, their food are artificial feeds, 27% protein, and 5% lipid, 40% carbs, for 15 millimeter juveniles. Duration, 70 to 80 days until juvenile reach 30 millimeter shell length, grow out size. And then stocking density, 600 to 1,000 early juveniles per meter squared in perforated basket. So next po ay ang grow out phase. Culture area flow through tanks or sea cages for 8 to 10 months, 30 mm to 55 and 60 mm cells. So, ganun po yung ranges ng pagkukulture kung sa tanks or even sa sea cages po. And then, kapag land-based, sun-filtered seawater, and aeration abalone in perforated buckets or cages. Kapag naman po sea cages, suspended from floating bamboo platforms. And then grow out phase, stocking density 60 to 100 abalones per meter squared of shelter surface area. And we have a two-culture system for the abalone. First po ay ang modular, density reduction for more space. Ito po yung kapag right size na po yung abalone is pwede na po siyang i-harvest or yung nasa grow out phase. And then the continuous naman po, fixed density of 100 abalones meter squared until harvest. So ito po ay merong saktong bilang bago ma-harvest sa continuous. And then food naman po ay fresh seaweed ad libitum weekly. And then lastly po ay ang ating optimum parameters. Ito po ay mahalaga na malaman sa pagmamanage ng ating water quality ng ating abalone. So for salinity, 32 to 35 ppb or parts per thousand. And temperature, 12 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius. And pH, 8. 8 po ang pH nila. And dissolved oxygen, 5 mHg or liter. They are poor osmoregulators and culture tanks should be shielded from excessive rainfall. Very sensitive to hydrogen sulfide. Carbon dioxide naman po ay less than 9 mg or liter. So, ayun po yung mga dapat natin i-take note kapag water quality test for our abalone. And ayun lang po. Thank you po.